So today we're going to be talking about showing more interest to girls and how that's actually going to get more interest back from women, right? Because the reason why more women are not showing high levels of interest, like it's a green light, like even if you're fucking stupid, like you can tell she's into you. I mean, those levels of interest, right? A lot of the reason why you're not getting those levels of interest is because you're not showing that level of interest to her first, okay? Now, I'm not saying this is a catch-all solution. You do, to some degree, have to be high value or charismatic or funny or have a sexy voice or look good or something that is going to actually make her attracted. Just showing a lot of interest in and of itself won't save the day. It does have to be some attraction. But once there is that attraction, and for the most part, unless a girl is giving you an approach invitation or a choosing signal, you don't know if she's going to like you or not. You can assume attraction all day, but at the end of the day, you don't know 100% if she's going to like you until you start talking to her and she turns to you and looks you in the eyes and gives you whatever she responds with, right? So we're just going to act under the possibility that she is going to be interested. And in that case, there is that attraction. What happens is, let's say she's like this attracted, okay? Whatever this means. And then we go in showing this much attraction. Well, if she has any level of social understanding, the most basic concept of all socializing, not just seduction, is that if someone's showing you this level of emotions and you're feeling this, you probably have to pull it back. Like, let's say you meet a new guy and he's really cool and you're just like, you want to be friends with him. And you kind of just want to say, yo, bro, we should go hang out, right? But he's only showing you this level of emotions. You're probably not going to like bro out too hardcore. You're going to be like, okay, we have to take it slow until like we reach that moment of becoming bros. And usually with guys, that moment is like when you can insult each other like jokingly and with love. Right? Because all your best friends, you guys say the most horrendous things to each other, but you mean it out of love, right? That's like the bro starting line, right? With girls, there's a lot of these things that can be the thing that starts it, right? But usually it's just going to be a moment where you're like, okay, she's locked in, right? She's showing you a level of interest that's pretty fucking obvious, okay? But let's say that's right here. Let's say she's actually that attracted already, and that's her open availability of emotion, right? If you come in like this, you're almost like you have a stock and you're selling it way too early, right? Or in this case, way too late, because sometimes guys will stay here the whole time and they'll never realize that the path to like getting with her, like kissing her, taking her home, hooking up with her, is your willingness and the leap of faith to actually like try more. Like, here, I'm going to try and touch her here. I'm going to try and go for the kiss. I'm going to try and get her to come home with me. I'm going to try and finger her. I'm going to try and, get her undressed and have sex with her, right? I'm going to take that next step and see what happens, right? Each next step is a leap of faith. You're never going to know 100%. You can be pretty fucking confident because you have enough experience and you can recognize her signals. But you're never 100% sure, because 100% means it's happening. So let's say a girl is this interested and you come in like this. Well, you're fucking yourself, because then she's going to see it and go back down here to meet you. But if she's here and you come in even here, great. She's going to show this, and then it's going to equalize. And then you got to pull yourself back, because if you stay here, this is what chasing is, right? Chasing a girl is like, you keep going at a higher level than she's ready for, like a higher level of interest. Like maybe she likes you in like a, oh, hey, you're cute kind of level. And you're like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And it's like, okay, there's a mismatch in emotions here. Obviously, there does need to be a balance. But in the very beginning, like when you walk up to her and you're just like, hey, I think you're really cute, or I think you're really beautiful, and I want to come and say hi. Or like in the first couple minutes when you're talking to her, I want you to show higher levels of interest and see how much she can actually meet you, because maybe she really feels this about you. This is what you normally would have been at. This is if you're like are a little bit more confident. But let's say you come in fucking full send, right? And she's like, wow, this guy's showing a lot of interest. And then she'll meet you there. And then you just started talking to a girl and she's like, oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. What's your name? If you haven't had girls responding to you like that, if you haven't had girls in the first moment just hooking really hard, like, what's your name? So nice to meet you. I'm Clara. Yeah, da da da. So what do you do? Where are you from? And she starts asking you questions and she's moving the seduction forward. You haven't really started seducing. And usually the way that you get that is you go in 100% or 80%, just more than you're going right now, right? So let's leave to the side the question of like, well, I have to be high value, I have to be attractive. Yes, that's fucking obvious, attraction 101. But this is more geared towards attempting to get higher levels of interest reciprocated to us, but it has to be a reciprocal act. And usually as you, the man, the pursuer, that's never going to change. We're not advising you chase women, but you're always going to be the pursuer in almost every case. The only time you are the pursued is usually in a social circle environment where you've built up enough of a reputation that girls will be attracted to you just upon like being around, your friend groups because they can tell you're high value. If you're extremely, extremely good with girls and you just have that vibe, but even then you usually have to make the first move, or if you're famous, right? Which really is just a social circle environment, just a global social circle, right? Or let's say you're famous on a city level, like a lot of people know you in the city. But for the most part, you're going to be having to be the pursuer, okay? And I want you to try and start taking the risk of showing more interest and seeing how much interest can be reciprocated, because the base theory behind this is what I just went over. Like, women are going to usually reciprocate how much interest you're showing. The only exception is if they're just generally lower value than you. Let's just, I know that's kind of harsh, but let's say like overall you're like an 8, right? If you go meet a girl who's a 6, now you do actually run into the trouble of being so attractive that she thinks you're not in her league, right? But let's say, or like she knows you're out of her league, but she doesn't even think she has a chance for whatever reason. But a lot of times that's because your behavior is kind of dickish, kind of arrogant, right? Or she has insecurity issues. But usually if you're a high value guy who's also very warm, even like 6s and 7s are going to feel confident enough to show you a lot of interest. But you should actually, that's the best move to do, because it's also going to help with the 9s and the 10s. Because you acting all cool and like reserved is hurting you with the 9s and the 10s, because they already are kind of just on average not showing as much interest because they are 9s and 10s. So they have their, they can choose what they want pretty much. And at the same time, they've been conditioned by so many guys hitting on them to not show too much interest, right? So because of what they can, they just have choosing power, but also they've been conditioned. So they usually just show lower levels of interest on average. But if you come in really hot, and of course you have the fundamentals and the attractiveness to pull it off. And I mean attractiveness, not just like your physical attractiveness, but like your vocal tonality, your body language, your facial expressions, your hand gestures, like the way you come out, your personality, your character. If you come in with the package, but also at the same time, like openly offering it with no sort of like, oh, you got to work for it, girl, any of these games, you're actually more likely to get a higher level of receptiveness than a guy who's playing too cool for school. The only time the guy who's too cool for school is going to beat you is if he's actually just higher value. The act of being cool for school, like, yeah, what's up, nice to meet you, and you're not showing your emotions, it does initially signal high value. There's a reason why a lot of people do it. Like, if you've ever spent a lot of time in like the rich part of town, I noticed this when I was walking around Bucharest. I would take clients or walk around in the kind of the rich part, and I noticed everybody was playing in the game of like emotionless, whatever, it's okay. And I remember joking to a client, I was like, well, part of this is because they just have a lot of pleasure in their life, right? Is Mike Dota coach? We're going to do one today? Oh, sorry. I had a Dota coaching session. Are we doing it now? I thought he canceled it, but I think because he's in Asia, so we have you know what Dota is? It's a game. This is very weird for me to be doing this in the middle of a video, but I'm very sincere. This is actually a great expression of like what I'm actually going to be teaching you. Is like normally it would be considered improper to like be distracted in the middle of a fucking video, right? Because this is professional, and right? But like whatever, it's just something popping up on my screen, and I'm gonna have a conversation with it. But and even just like the way I just expressed myself, like I'm willing to show a lot of emotions, even at the cost of being quirky and silly. And I don't think it's very cringe. Some people might consider it cringe, but I'm pretty sure I've crafted it in a way that it actually comes off pretty charismatic and funny, right? Not to jerk myself off too much, but you know, you're gonna want to have to. The fuck kind of sentence is that? You're gonna want to have to. Let me reset. You want to show more emotions, right? That was kind of what I was getting at. You know, talking about the rich people who are all like stuck up and shit like that. Yeah. You know, go around and look at these people, these snooty people, and they try to act high value and detached from things, right? Now I'm back on track. And it is somewhat a signal of high value, but it's like it's like C, B tier behavior, right? A and S tier behavior, like the highest levels of, charisma, is actually extreme openness, right? But that extreme openness and warmth is bolstered and like has a foundation of being charismatic. Like you could barely open and show a lot of interest and be fucking lame and weird. But I would argue that even if you're a beginner, right, because you might be coming to that conclusion of like, okay, well, I should be really open and emotional, but if I don't have like the fundamentals and the charisma behind it, it's going to fail. But I would even venture to say that if you're a beginner, because I actually have a client who's struggling. I have a client in both cases where he's intermediate / advanced, and he needs to like show more emotion. And this is part of why I made this video, actually, because of our session today. But there's also a client of mine who is a beginner, but his biggest issue is he's not expressing himself and showing any interest. And he's never getting responses from girls because of it. Like, and I tell him up and down, it's because you're not showing any emotion. Like, we can't even really get started on becoming charismatic yet because you don't even understand what that means, really. I need some raw material to actually forge, the sword or the armor with, right? But you got to bring me some sort of metal. I don't care if it's the shittiest iron you can imagine, right? Or it's fucking, Damascus steel that can make like a world-class katana. Like, you got to give me some sort of a metal to work with, right? So even if you're a beginner, being willing to express your emotions so that you can possibly get this response from her is going to be far more productive than playing cool for school. And unfortunately, it's very hard to teach that because most advice out there is teaching you how to be really cool and Mr. Suave. But I promise you, it's not as good as really warm and open. It gets a lot more nuanced, and there are times you do have to pull back emotion, right? But that's not what we're focusing on, okay? We're just focusing on opening up our emotions. So the way that I described it to this client who was more advanced and intermediate was, because basically he was like, I'm struggling with getting 9s and 10s, right? Because I get kind of nervous around them, and I don't just make the moves. And I kind of started to question him on various scenarios when he feels nervous and when he doesn't. And the conclusion that I came to was that once he gets around the really hot girls, he kind of goes into his shell, and he says, like, one time he was at the grocery store and this really smoking hot girl like reached across him to grab the little sticks that they use at the grocery store to separate, my stuff from your stuff. And she kind of reached like really in his personal space, and he made a joke like, "Oh, I thought you were going to hit me." And she kind of just looked at him and smiled. And that's it, right? And then he didn't do anything else. Because to him, it was like, oh, it was just like a light signal of interest. Now, to me, I'm like, that's enough. I'm going fucking balls deep in this bitch, right? I'm going all in. But to him, he wanted more drastic signs of interest. But he's like, yeah, but because she's a 9 or a 10, she's not going to show interest. I'm like, that's only part of it. If you were to walk up to that girl in not that situation and just go all out and give her a really strong sign of attraction, then she's more likely to express it because of what I explained before. Yes, just like with the rich people. Yeah, they're acting all snooty because that's what they've been conditioned to do, just like the hot girl. But if you were to walk up in a really charismatic, cool way and open up to them, they would be like, oh, he's not like every other asshole in this town. I can actually open up to him. Because people want to connect, right? But they're afraid for whatever reason. Good or bad, skilled or unskilled, they have put up a wall. But if you come in like with charisma, but at the very least sincerity, they're going to know, oh, I can open up to this guy in return. So even a 9 or a 10 is going to be like, oh, wow. And I know this because I've been in clubs where, you have your 9 and 10 walk by and I go, you are gorgeous. What is your name? Like fully, no fear, fucking shameless. And she just turns to me and goes, hi, I'm Sarah, what's your name? Like fully like, and I'm not saying like, oh, she's just treating you like a nice guy. No, like I end up like making out with the girl or, feeling her up or, clearly I'm not in the friend zone, right? So I can tell you demonstratively, confidently, with 100% certainty, this ability to just full send your emotions and show high resolution emotions is how I described it to this guy. Like treat it like right now your emotions are being displayed in 480p or maybe 720 max. I want you to show your shit in 4K. IMAX 16K. I don't know what the fuck IMAX even is in resolution, right? I want you to show your emotions. I want you to have that moment like I had when I got distracted by my Dota coach. Did he even respond yet? Yes, in this session now, I did miss it. Are you up for a session right now? Yes, it is. Yes. But I thought you said we're rescheduling to tomorrow. Or I got confused. Can we do in 30 minutes? When you're dealing with time zones, it's so hard. He's over in Malaysia or Singapore. So, I have that moment where I'm just like, hey, give me, I know I'm in the middle of a serious professional video, but like, let me give a few seconds. I got to coordinate my coaching because my Dota rank is important to me. If you don't know what Dota is, look it up. It's like League of Legends, but for not children. So I just burned like so many people. So show emotions and you're going to get those emotions back. Okay. Be more sincere, be more genuine, right? Yes. Are you going to, maybe fuck up because you're just not high value enough? Yeah, but that's not what we're worried about right now, okay? We're just testing the waters by going all in. Then if you start getting a lot of feedback and girls aren't hooking, then it's because you're not doing it in a high value way, right? Which is a totally different ball game, okay? So maybe in the next video, I'll go over like how to be highly expressive, but also be high value at the same time. Right? Because you're going to have the fundamentals to make you attractive while you're doing it. But I just want you to experiment like I told with this guy. I said, look, man, for the next month or whatever, I want you to go all in and just see what happens. You're going to get rejected 100%, right? But I think you're going to get, once you get, and I told him, you're going to know I was fucking right. When you talk to that 10 and she's going to give you a response like you've never seen from a girl who's a 10. You're going to go all in like, excuse me, hi, you are so beautiful. What is your name? Like just boom, full all in, right? And she's going to go, hi, what's your name? Da-da. And he's going to go, what the fuck? And I told him in that moment, because even when I started getting it, I was like, oh my God, this gorgeous girl is responding to me like that. And even I was kind of not 100% sure why it was happening. But then as I studied it, I was like, oh, it's because I'm being open. So she feels comfortable to be open in response. Once you see that, once you have that instance of a gorgeous girl responding like that to you, you're going to understand why I called the cool guy high value act as like CB tier behavior. And you're going to be opened up to A and S tier behavior. So try it out. Go full send IMAX 17 billion okay resolution, show your emotions. Of course, you're going to have to adjust as the seduction goes on and meet their balance of interest, right? And you're going to need to do it with some fundamentals. Like, hey, excuse me, you're so beautiful, versus, excuse me, hi, you are gorgeous. What is your name? Worlds apart, right? Because even though I'm like showing a lot of emotion, I'm still being confident about it, whereas the first one is just like super nervous, right? But that will happen over time, okay? So go give it a try and see how it goes, and leave a comment in about your experiences, right? I'm gonna go practice Dota. So I love you guys. I have shit in the description. Go buy it. Give me money. I'll give you more wisdom in return. And yeah, go fuck yourself. I love you. Bye.